Welcome to Muslim Apologetics Australia. We've entered the 13th day of the Israeli and Gazan conflict. The murder is treacherous, the barbarism is horrendous, the child killing is relentless. They are murdering and slaughtering at will, supported by the United States, another terrorist organization, just like Israel is a terrorist organization, and we need to constantly condemn them and call it out for what it is. But in this video, I want to concentrate on 2 points regarding why and where are the Muslim nations in this. But before I do, I want to address the recent attacks, such as the 500 people killed in the hospital, the Gaza hospital that was bombed. There are disputes between whether it was done by Israel. Israel is putting the blame on Hamas or the Islamic Jihad, and Islamic Jihad is now pointing fingers at Gaza. Now, there are certain arguments. For instance, there's some arguments that they use. This is the Israelis. The Israelis are using arguments such as they've got some footage of some rocket coming from the direction of Hamas into the hospital, and they say that this is proof that Hamas or Islamic Jihad committed this atrocity. But of course, they blame it on a misfire. But first, when they first broadcasted this, they said it was an Israeli misfire. So they said it was an Israeli misfire. Actually, before that, they actually said it was Hamas using the hospital to store weapons. Therefore, Israel targeted that because they were using the hospital's human shields. And then they changed the narrative and they said, oh no, it was a misfire coming from Israel. And then they changed the story again. They said, oh no, we've got some video footage showing that a rocket came from this certain direction. And they've got proof, and they got 2 videos that show it falling to the hospital. And then they've got a third bit of evidence. They claim there's some audio talk between Hamas fighters where they spoke about misfiring a rocket that hit the hospital and so forth. But of course, this could be propaganda. Anyone can make an audio video. Anyone can make an audio. Like it's so easy to do that. You can get 2 Israelis speaking Palestinian and make that conversation. And it's really surprising that Israel has got all of this technology that they can hear 2 Palestinians have a discussion. They could phone tap their conversations. But according to Russia, Israel is not releasing satellite image, which will actually ultimately prove who the rockets came from, which they're not releasing. And the other point is that Israel is already inside Gaza. So if they're already inside Gaza, it is possible then that one of those rockets came from an Israeli armored vehicle. But what I want to say is, don't ever let this distract you. Even if Islamic Jihad or Hamas was responsible for this, suppose they were, don't ever let that distract you from the fact that it was Israel that actually cut off water, food, fuel, and electricity from the hospitals. Okay? So these people want to talk about, how they care about innocent lives and people in a hospital. Why then would you cut off water, electricity, food, which are daily essentials for victims who are getting treated in hospitals? Doesn't make sense, does it? And the irony is that Israel actually gave 2 hours notice for hospitals in Gaza to evacuate. This was 3 days before that hospital got bombed. So if these people had no interest in bombing the Gazan hospitals, why would they tell hospitals to evacuate? They gave them 2 hours, move all of your patients out of these hospitals and move south. Doesn't make sense, does it? If these hospitals were supposed to be protected under the apparent justice of Israeli occupation, then why would they tell hospitals to vacate? In fact, the minister for those who actually run the hospitals said Israel was constantly sending warnings for Palestinians to actually leave the hospitals, to leave, grab all your patients and leave, move. So these barbaric Nazis want to even close down hospitals so that the citizens don't get treatment. And these people want to talk about, Hamas or Islamic Jihad doesn't care about human life. They're barbaric terrorists. They don't care about you or your life. And yet these people are closing hospitals. These terrorist Israelis are closing hospitals, imagine, which is a daily necessity, especially in this given circumstance. You want hospitals to be operating in this circumstance because it's the only lifeline to give treatment for the citizens. And what is even a greater injury to insult is the fact that not only are they closing these hospitals, they're cutting off water, food, fuel, electricity, which is a daily essential. And according to the United Nations, it is a war crime, according to the Geneva Convention, to have collective punishment. And this is exactly what Israel focused on doing. Punishing all citizens, all 2 million citizens, for the actions of Hamas, which is actually a war crime according to the Geneva Conventions, according to the United Nations. Now, the second point I would like to discuss is the Muslim situation. You can see this meme. You can see that meme in front of you. It says, we need to make lots of dua and protests, peace talks with Israel, and sending humanitarian aid is an essential. These are all the Muslim countries, predominantly Muslim countries. And you can see a second meme here. It says, the Ummah without a Khilafah, the enemy. You can see YPG. When YPG was around, the Turkish president was already there, killing the YPG in northern Syria because the Kurds, they're more of an atheistic malicious group who wanted to take control of the southern part of Turkey. You see President Erdogan was, peace olive tree was the mission, and he went and started droning and killing and wiping out the YPG, which he successfully did that. You see the Houthis on this side, when they became a resistance group in Yemen, and they were doing terrorism against Saudi Arabia. You see the Saudi-led coalition strikes Houthi-held bases. The Saudi Arabians were ready to strike, and they did so, and they're still striking. But of course, when it comes to Israel war jets striking Gaza indiscriminately, you see the governments, the Arab League. Yeah. By the way, the Arab League, which is worse than the United Nations, it's as fake as the United Nations. they, of course, when Israel is striking the poor Palestinians, the Arab League and the Turkish president and so forth, they all come together and they say, we need to have diplomatic, peaceful talks with Israel for immediate ceasefire. We require humanitarian efforts to aid the Palestinians. So, brothers and sisters, what we need to understand is we are now living in the time where wahin, fear of death, and love of dunya has entered the hearts of majority of the Muslims. Majority of the Muslims. Okay? So when you see that our leaders, our presidents, who are not coming out with an iron fist, who are not threatening to strike Israel, such as the Turkish president or Pakistan or, the Saudi Arabia and so forth, when they're not threatening to attack, it proves that there is wahin in the heart, that there is fear of death and love of the dunya. And we need to understand that this is a prophecy predicted by the Prophet ﷺ. It is a prophecy. The Prophet ﷺ spoke about this, so you should always be in amazement with the prophetic teaching. How accurate it is that something said 1400 years ago, how relevant it is today, how these future predictions are here. We're 1.6 billion population, and Israel is one nation. Of course, backed by America, but we also have our backings. In fact, even Russia is backing the Muslim nations. But they are scared to say a word. And the only thing that they could do for the last 75 years is make dua and humanitarian aid. Wallahi, if dua was the only thing and nothing else, then wahin has entered the heart. If the only thing that Umar ibn Khattab did when he captured Masjid al-Aqsa, if the only thing he did was dua, then he would not conquer Al-Aqsa, Jerusalem. He would not conquer it. Only making dua is like saying, oh Allah, you go and fight, and the angels, I'm just going to sit here and watch. In fact, this angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, this is something hated. The Prophet ﷺ spoke about this, that when you sit reclined back, with your arms back, and you sit, your posture's back, the Prophet ﷺ doesn't like this type of sitting. And they asked him why. Oh Rasulullah, why? He said, because the children of Israel said the same thing to Musa. They said when they were ready to fight the Pharaoh, when Musa got the nation of Israel, when he brought them together, the believers, and they were ready to fight, what they did is they reclined back with their hands back, and they said to Musa, you and your Allah go and fight. Wallahi, this is what they did to Musa. And then what happened was, there was 40 years of famine and so forth. Allah punished them. Remember? This happened. So don't get me wrong, brothers. I am not making a mockery out of dua. Yes, dua is the most fundamental, important thing. I'm not saying don't do it. This is the most important thing, because through dua is what Allah accepts. But saying only dua and not taking action is where the problem is. And I've already said this before, that it is not just the leaders, it also comes back to us. How do you expect Allah to give you victory if you are not beating the sheets and you are not coming to Fajr prayer? How do you expect Allah to give you victory? If you are a disobedient people, then Allah will also give you weak leaders. So the reflection comes back to us. So when you point fingers at the leaders, there's fingers pointing back at you, and Allah gives a nation a leader it deserves. So unfortunately, when this war ends, and God knows how many Palestinians are going to be wiped out, some are predicting even half the population will be completely wiped out. Muslims will go back to smoking shisha, forgetting this, forgetting what has happened, and they'll go back to living their lives of jahiliyyah, and they'll go back to watching TikTok, their favorite movies, twerking and looking good on Instagram, doing things and wasting their energy on useless matters. And then the repetition will happen. In another year or two, Israel again would start bombing the Muslims, and it will be this vicious cycle until there's a complete extermination of the Muslims within the area. And wallahi, brothers and sisters, look at the situation of the Muslims. According to the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, you'll be many in number, but you'll be like the scum of the earth. And in another hadith, we are crying, they're going to take Masjid al-Aqsa. They're going to take Masjid al-Aqsa. What are you talking about, O Muslims? According to the hadith, we are crying that they're going to take Masjid al-Aqsa. And we are crying, why aren't the Muslims moving? According to the hadith, it says that for one day they will take the Kaaba, the house of Allah. The unbelievers will take the Kaaba, and only then will the Muslims move. Wallahi, look how bad the state is. So forget them conquering Israel and conquering Palestine and taking Aqsa. They're even going to come to Saudi Arabia and they're going to take the Kaaba. This is according to authentic hadith. No one can deny this. And so I've always said this. I've always held this opinion. And up until now, no one can actually change my mind. No one has given me good evidence to actually change my mind. My belief has always been the only thing that can actually fix the racism and the nationalism within the Muslim Ummah is Imam Mahdi. He is the only one that can bring unity for the Muslims, not the fake Arab League or the United Nations or all of this garbage. The only thing that's going to bring unity for the Muslims is Imam Mahdi. Everything other than that is wishful thinking and fake. And brothers and sisters, I do not blame President Erdogan. Don't get me wrong. Yes, he has wahin and fear of death in his heart. We all do. Most of the Muslims have got fear of death and love of the dunya. No one can deny this. And President Erdogan is not stupid. He's not stupid. Wallahi, he can't trust his Arab League brothers. Let's be honest. His Arab League brothers would say to him, President Erdogan, you're our Khilafah. Fight. They'll treat him like the Musa. They'll say, you're our Musa. We're behind you. We will fight with you against the Israeli aggression. We will fight. And last minute, when President Erdogan goes into the war with Israel, what are the Muslims going to do? What is the Arab League going to do? They're going to turn their back and stab on them like they stabbed the Ottomans. Huh? This is what they're going to do. They're going to turn their back. They're going to say, you're the Khilafah. You said you can fight. You're the leader of the Muslims. Come on, we're behind you. They will abandon him. Wallahi, they will abandon him. And as a result, you know what would happen? As a result, Turkey will be destroyed and they will be sent back 100 years. Wallahi. So I don't blame the man, because racism and nationalism has entered the hearts. Turkey only attacks when its own citizens get killed. Pakistan might only attack if only its citizens get killed. The Arabs may attack if the Arabs get killed. It's nationalism. But if the Palestinians get killed, we need to make dua, and we just need to do, I heard they did a global fast. We could do a global fast for them. So this is why I say that all is fake and the only true unity comes from Imam Mahdi. He will be the only one to unite the Muslims, and when they capture Al-Kaaba, the Kafir, when they take Kaaba, Imam Mahdi will come back with unity of the Muslims and recapture it. Wallah. This is according to the Hadith. So until then, Muslims, wallahi, until then, do not expect the Muslims or the leaders to do anything. This terror will continue. The killing and the bloodshed will continue year after year, month after month, days after day, until the Muslims continue to cry according to the Hadith, continue to cry. When they constantly cry and make dua to Allah to bring the Mahdi, then Allah will bring the Mahdi. There needs to be bloodshed to spread for this to happen. And wallahi, it is so hypocritical. Listen to this. Listen how crazy this is. When Imam Mahdi comes, according to the Hadith, it says a party of the Muslims will attack him. Oh, wow, what? What did you say? Yes, a group of the Muslims will attack Imam Mahdi, according to Al-Sunni Hadith. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah al-Hadith, that a group of the Muslims will come. The group of the Muslims who didn't attack Israel will now come and fight Imam Mahdi. Allah yatik. Allah help us. Imagine the Muslims who didn't fight against Israel and the Kafir, they're now going to fight against Imam Mahdi. Forget about wahin in the heart. Forget about fear of death and love of dunya. The hypocrisy, the munafiqun amongst us. And what is even more crazy is that these will even be believers. They're not munafiq. The ones, according to Hadith, the ones who are attacking, remember it says Muslim, it doesn't say munafiq is going to attack Imam Mahdi. It says the Muslim will attack Imam Mahdi. The Muslims, which is even more crazy. And according to the Mufassirin, that the tafsir, they are going to go to hell. The ones who fight against him and they die, they go to hell. These are Muslims. And we accept unity. We accept these Muslims to defend us against Israeli and Kafir aggression. Wallahi, if I was President Erdogan, I would not go and fight Israel. No way. If I was President Erdogan, I will not fight Israel. No way. You think I'm going to put my own country into cost their own death and suicide? Send my country back 100 years? No chance in the world. Erdogan is a smart man. He has a vision. Wallahi, the guy's majestic in the way he thinks. Egypt had a leader, Mohammed Morsi. He was their leader. Wallah, there was an uprising by the Egyptian people. They stood with the Sisi's government to overthrow Morsi out of government. Allah, these are the Muslims that overthrew Morsi. They put a corrupt Sisi in government. They accepted his authoritative rule, and he did most of the blockages in Gaza on the border, from the southern border, and only because of the United Nations pressure that southern border was open so humanitarian aid can go in. Otherwise, Egypt wasn't even opening up the border. Egypt wasn't even opening up the border if it wasn't from the pressures of the United Nations. But apparently they're brothers, brotherhood. There is no such thing as brotherhood. There may be brotherhood to watch Instagram and, Facebook, Facebook friends and watching TikTok and laughing. There might be brotherhood there, but brotherhood to defend one another, no, that doesn't exist. I'll be honest with you. When Hamas actually did these attacks, I was actually very angry. I was angry because they jeopardized the situation of the Muslims in Gaza. They wanted to attack Israel because their aim was to capture Israeli citizens so they can do a prison exchange. But the question remains, you took 250 Israelis for a prison exchange, and no prison exchange was made. And on top of that, over 5,000 lives have been lost, and it's counting, most of which are women and children. So wallahi, this was a disgraceful move. And of course, the Hamas spokesperson, he says, we're going to die anyway. We're going to die anyway, so we might as well do something about it. I think that was a terrible move. I think it was a terrible move because the people that you're fighting, they have no mercy in their heart. They don't care about United Nations. They don't care about how they look. They will lie in the media, manipulate the stories, and you're causing more destruction for yourself. Especially living in the time where you're stuck in the border, you've got nowhere to go, your people are in prison. They are living under an occupation. It's besieged. You have no real military. You have no tanks, jets, no navy. You have no Muslim nation defending you who is willing to fight. And you go out and do this, jeopardizing the Palestinian people. This is what Khawarij would do. So it is terrible. It is terrible what Hamas has done. It is absolutely terrible. In this state, I would rather accept occupation than allow these bloodthirsty monsters come out and destroy entire Gaza. I would rather live under occupation and famine and poverty and so forth than get killed and exterminated like this. It is a hard situation. It is a difficult situation, but you have caused more problems for yourself. In fact, the same happened in Syria. There was a Syrian uprising, and the uprising was they wanted to get rid of Bashar al-Assad, who was a tyrannic leader. But the question remains, was it better to live under that tyrant ruler, or is it now better to live in Syria? Which one is it? You ask the Syrian resistant groups, you ask them which one is better. Wallahi, they would say it is better to live under the regime of Bashar al-Assad. Wallahi. Their whole country's been destroyed. Everything's been destroyed. Wallahi, everything's been destroyed. And now they would be crying. And the same thing happened in Iraq. When there was an uprising, wallahi, an uprising against Saddam Hussein, over 1 million Iraqis died. And now Iraq, there is so much poverty and famine and crisis and sectarian violence and no unity. It is more destructive than it was living under Saddam Hussein's regime. Think about this for a moment. The Prophet ﷺ, when he migrated to Medina, did he go back the very next year, bring an army and fight the Quraysh? No, he didn't. Took him 10 years before he returned to fight in Badr. For 10 years he was educating Medina and strengthening the hearts of the newly converts, and they were getting preparations and doing what they can. And look at this. It took 10 years despite Allah being on the side of the Prophet ﷺ, despite the Prophet being supported by 70,000, 100,000 angels, the Prophet still prepared for 10 years. I mean, he could have gone the very next year. I mean, Allah and the angels are behind him, aren't they? But no, he still had to get prepared. It took 10 years. And these resistant groups want to go and fight Israel and then jeopardize the condition of the Muslims, the Palestinians, who have no navy, no military, no nothing. When the Prophet ﷺ went to war, even though he had Allah and the angels beside him, he had 2 shields. He had 2 shields. He got arms ready. He was ready to fight the kuffar. And these stupid Hamas, we got paragliders. We're going to go fight Israel with paragliders. We're going to go fight Israel with rockets. Wallah. Majnoon. Majnoon. And whoever is running Hamas, some are saying Iran is running Hamas. It could be true. It could be true. And one of the reasons why Israel is not attacking Iran, Israel is apparently so mighty and so strong and, sophisticated weapons and military power. They know Iran is behind Hamas. They know. They know that the ones who are supporting this stupid group known as Hamas, the ones that are supporting Hamas are Iran. Right? They know. They've said it many times that Hamas is cooked in an Iranian kitchen. Right? They know, but they're not attacking Iran. Why aren't they attacking Iran? Well, they're not attacking Iran because they're scared of Russia. Right? Iran is backed by Russia. I want to leave you with these Muslims. Wallahi, Israel is so scared of the Muslim unity. By the way, folks, this isn't an anti-Jew or anti-Semitic video. Wallahi, our brothers are the Orthodox Jews, the ones that hold on to Judaism. We don't have a problem with them. They're our brothers. We're from the Abrahamic faith. Wallahi, we are. That the Jews and the Christians are Ahlul Kitab, people of the book. There's a minority group among them. Wallahi, we don't have a problem with them. And there are Jews now who are against the state of Israel. They are protesting heavily. Wallahi, this isn't an anti-Semitic video. Our problem is with the terrorist state of Israel, the Zionists. This is our problem. Wallahi, they are so scared of the Muslim unity. They are so scared that they bomb humanitarian buildings, they bomb hospitals, they cut off water, they cut off electricity, which is a war crime. They kill Western and Palestinian journalists. They attack civilian infrastructure, which is another war crime, which is collective punishment. They target and kill ambassadors. They kill peaceful protesters. They shoot and kill Muslims, Palestinians in the West Bank where there's no Hamas, where there is no rockets being fired into Israel. They still kill them. About 300 of them get killed. They do all of that atrocity, but wallahi, yes, they throw a tear gas into Masjid al-Aqsa, but wallahi, they don't bomb it. Wallahi, they are scared. They are scared to do this because they know if they attack this, the Muslims may unite. But wallahi, they won't even unite on that because I've already said that even when the Kaaba gets taken, the Muslims will still be sitting around. Right? It is tough days, but these are all part of the hadiths. These are all part of the prophecies. These are all foretold by the Prophet ﷺ. We are living in the age of fitan, in the age of sexual immorality, adultery, fornication, which is prevalent among the Muslim Ummah. We are living in the time of rebellion, not praying, not doing dhikr, not doing sadaqah. We've left the Quran and taken entertainment as our pleasure. So our destruction comes from ourselves. No one but ourselves. And Allah will eventually continue to replace us for a new generation that will come and be victorious. Take care.